My name is Dora Brugier, and my maiden name is Shoots Off. And I was born in Cherry Creek, South Dakota, and lived there most of my life. I went to a boarding school, Cheyenne River Boarding School. That's the east side of the almost along the Cheyenne River. And my parents says to tell about memories of our grandparents, but I don't remember any grandparents, as my father and mother were already old when, and all as asked them where my grandparents are. And my father is Cheyenne Sioux, so his parents are over there. They probably were gone long before we were born, and so we never speak of our grandparents from my father's side. And my mother is from the Pine Ridge Reservation, and she has never spoken of her mother or father. When children say grandpa and grandma, we always wonder, we feel like we want to say that, but we don't have any. And we'd ask where our grandma and grandpa is, and she said they probably all died in that Wounded Knee massacre. She said nobody knows where they went. They went to a ghost dance and never returned. So I get all my advices and teachings from my father for outside work, like riding horseback, taming a horse, or hitching up a wagon, chopping wood, all those from my father. And my mother helped me with sewing and beading and tanning hides, and go pick berries and dig turnips. And she is a medicine woman that in the spring we go out to dig medicine. And she has told me some of the roots and some of the plants, but I forgot, because that's a long time ago, and I still do remember some. And that she does healing services, and she uses a turtle. She calls it the sacred turtle that heals. What she does is, if you get a sore or bump, she'll take some water and make a turtle where it hurts you. With that water, she draws a turtle and pats it and says, "Turtle, take away the pain or heal this." And it seemed like it does. 'Cause a lot of times when we're hurt, we go to her and she does that to us. Our bumps will be gone, or our sores are gone. And what my father did when we had trachoma, me and my brothers, we had sore eyes. We did everything to try and clear it, until he said one day, he said, "If we can find a coyote, that coyote will heal your eyes." So my big brother went and found roped a coyote and brought it back, and they smudged him and they put red paint on his face, and they do Indian ceremonies all the time because they're full-blood Indians, my father and mother. So I grew up going through all kinds of Indian ceremonies growing up, me and my brothers. I had an older sister, but she died, and the oldest sister I never did see because she was my half-sister. And so I grew up with brothers, 2 older brothers and 1 younger brother. And so one day, when they brought this coyote back, they put him they put sage around, we sat on sage, and the coyote sat on they tied him to a stake, and he sat in front of us. And they said, "You look into his eyes, and he's going to look into your eyes. As long as he's staring in your eyes, don't blink or don't turn around, just stare at him. as long as he's staring at you. And said, if it's going to be all night, I don't want to, or if it's going to be all afternoon, I want to. And they said, no, you can't say that. You have respect. This is sacred. And my brothers didn't want to go first, so I had to go first. My brothers are always putting me first because I'm a woman, they said. And, they always put me first and everything. So I sat down in front of it and stared at that coyote till all of a sudden he started to rub his eyes. And then they came and hugged me and said, your eyes are going to be good. And I believed it because, I'm 80 years old and then my eyes are okay. And lately they kind of blur now because I want to read, but I can't see the words. I wear reading glasses. But then I believe that, I don't know what happened there, but when I see a coyote, all they say, that coyote healed my eyes. And my sore eyes were gone and they were clear. And my mother said, in the mornings, wash your eyes good. And she said, don't look at people with evil eyes, because if you do, you're going to get your sore eyes back. So we never did, me and my brothers, And my brothers did the same thing. And they had good eyes. They never wore glasses, And so that's a story I always tell. And my father says, you can't be telling it all the time. These are sacred. You have to put out tobacco or put a little food or something out in the air for those spirits, the sacred spirits. Then you can tell. But I'm glad you gave me tobacco so I can talk. Because they have a way of doing things. They have to smudge themselves. They have to smoke sage or cedar or roots, and before they can do something. And so that's what my father healed our eyes through the coyote's eyes. When I talked to my children about it, they come and look into my eyes and said, Grandma, you have coyote eyes. Which is, I could see way over there, if a horse or cow going by, I can tell that. I could see. I was trying to get glasses, and the doctor said, read these. So I read all the letters. And he said, well, you don't need glasses. You read all the letters on it. And, yeah, but I need some for reading. So then he gave me some for reading. So I believe in that, about something that you think is sacred to you and want to have faith in it, it could heal you. And then my brother, though he's not told my mother about using the turtle, people come to her when they're sick, have chest pains or anything. They come to her and then she takes this water and puts this turtle mark on them and and it goes away. That's also, so I tried it in later years. I tried it on my children when they got skinned knees or bumps or sores or anything. I tried on them, and it seemed to help them. And I said, just have faith in it. Because one of my grandsons was real sick and they said he couldn't breathe and he had heart trouble and that he will not make it to morning. So we all sat around him and I kept praying that he'll be okay. And then he said, Grandma, put that turtle around here. Maybe that will help, because I don't want to die, he said. He said, okay, grandson. I put his pajamas, that was in the hospital. Put his pajama, and I took the water he had and I made it around where it hurted him. Made that turtle. And I said, my grandson believes in you, turtle. I said, so take this pain away and, get rid of it. So he'll be happy. He's in pain and he doesn't want to die. He wants to live, I said this all in Lakota. But we sat there, and the nurses kept taking his temperature, and temperature was high, and his heartbeat was slow, and he looks at us, and he can't hardly talk. And we all just sat there, and I said, his mother was crying, his other grandma was crying. Don't be crying. I said, don't cry. He'll be okay. So they stopped crying, and the nurse said, well, he seems to be doing okay. He's going to sleep now, so I think you better all go home and, you know. And he just lay there real still, and so I touched his head, and I prayed, in the name of Jesus Christ, you know, watch over him and heal him and let him be happy in his life. And we went home, and early next morning, a phone call came, so I answered, and it was my grandson Shane. He said, Grandma, oh, Trakoja, how are you? I got up and here, that pain's gone, and I feel just fine. Come up, they're going to give me breakfast. Come and see me eat, he said. And so I was real happy to hear that. So I got dressed, went to the hospital. And as I was going there, I said, you know what, Shane got up real happy this morning. And we said, how did this happen? And he said, Grandma drew a turtle on my chest where it hurts and took the pain away. And she said, did you do that? Well, Indian way, we have to do things like that. But, you know, that's just for us, you know, I told her. And when I walked in there, he was kind of sitting up. He looked at me and he said, Grandma, I'm okay. So I hugged him and I said, praise the Lord, thank you, Jesus. I said, and he said, what about the turtle? He said. And I said, well, him too. I thank him too. So he's well, he's now 20 years old, he's doing just fine. He finished high school and he's going to community college. Now he wants to be a doctor, so he signed up to go to Bismarck, to go to United Tribes. So I'm really happy for him, and that's one true story I want to tell. And my grandparents, I wish they were around to tell me, but my father and mother are the real teachers that taught me a lot. But again, they always said, don't be telling these things unless you really have to, because they're sacred. And if they're true, you can't just tell it as a joke or tell it as, you know, just, but if you're asked to talk, you know, about something, or tell that. So those things I learned from my parents. And my parents taught me to have respect and honor all the elders and to get along with everybody and to help everybody and share things with everybody. And why the turtle, I said too, you know what, I was going to tell you that growing up till, like I was saying, I was going through all kinds of Indian ceremonies. One time they made me eat a piece of turtle heart because I used to cry. I wanted to do things my brothers did, and when I can't, they said I can't because I'm a woman, don't go. And then I want to go with them, and I'll cry around to try and go with them and ride horseback and all that. And I want to do things that boys did, and I can't, so I'll be crying, and everything they say, I cry about it, and pretty soon they said, we're going to make her stop crying, so we're going to heal her with a turtle heart. And I wondered what that was, but one day they held me down, they made me swallow a piece of, I could still taste it. They held my mouth, you know, I kicked around, but they held my mouth down. And then it went down and just like was jerking around in here. And, oh, that was an awful feeling. And I was going to scream and cry, and I couldn't. And I think that healed me right there. And afterward, I got mad and said, why this turtle? It's you know, he looks, because they brought one, so he was sitting there. He's so ugly. You know, it's a snake and all that, you know. And so don't say that, you know. We did that because he keeps to himself inside that turtle and minds his own business, don't say anything to nobody else. And he stays in the water where he's clean, he drinks plenty of water, he's in good health, and he can go somewhere slow but sure, but he'll get there, and his mind is strong and all that. That's why we have this turtle. And so I looked at it and he said, if you can see the top of it, look close. So if you see the top of a turtle, if you ever see one, he said that's a road map. You can see the directions you can go all over. And if you turn it over, you see the Indian colors at the bottom. So I picked one up one time to tell it to some kids in this story, because I never seen it before like that. I looked at it and it's true. If you ever see a turtle, all those markings on top are like you go in an airplane, look down, and you see the, you know, it's like that on top of it. I turned it over, and then there was the four, you know, yellow, white, black, and blue or green, you know, and then this medicine man was telling us that if you look at it close, there's a cross that you can see on there too, and I seen it on there too. So then I thought, oh, then I kind of really get scared of the turtle. I don't want to say anything about it, but I'm telling a story about it. Well, anyway, she said, that's what you can live, you know, about turtles. So my mother makes moccasins, and she put beads of turtles on there, or she has little pouches hanging down, if you remember. Or she has sofa pillows or anything that she makes a turtle on it. I tried to do that, but I can't. But my grandson that is healed from that has a stand, and you can see all the turtles. So whenever I go somewhere, I buy him a turtle to put on there. He's saving those because he believed in that turtle story. I mean, turtle healing. And when a lot of other stories I was told by my father and mother, which I'm telling now, and they said, you remember these stories and what we told you, and you can tell it to your children. And their children, you know, they can tell it to their children. It'll go on, and it wouldn't be forgotten. So try and remember these. So every now and then I sit and try and look, you know, think back. Oh yeah, my father said that. Or I'll say, oh yeah, my mother did this, you know. I remember things back now that I'm getting old. But in between there, everything was stopped when we went to school. We can't talk about things, we can't talk our language, we can't do this, we can't do that. So I just kind of let it go till I got married and had my own children, and then I just thought I'd tell it to my children. So they went to the classrooms and they told the stories that I was telling. Now I'm invited to classrooms where I can tell, you know, but I'm glad to do it, you know, so they can go on with the storytelling. That's about all I can tell you today.
Turtles have patience too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everything is.
So you shared a lot about your parents and the values they taught you. Do you have any special stories you'd like to tell about some of the advice they gave you about helping the people and sharing and respecting and honoring elders and these kind of values?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any special stories you'd like to share about those different qualities?
There's always saying Ushik chilapi, ukichapi in un otakwekixiapi, which means love one another, help each other, share, and have respect. And what did I say? And to listen and but all the same, listen. You listen and you see what they're telling you, and you hear it. If you keep, what you heard in your ears, and if you do what you saw, you learn that way in a Lakota. You watch your mother do something, and you see it, and then she tell you to do it, and you do. You learn that way. You look at it and do it, and that's how you learn. And to obey, obey your parents. Like, they never shake us up or hate us or anything, but they just say shh, and then we stop right there. Or if they just kind of look at you, which is wrong. And so I try to do that to my grandchildren, but it's hard nowadays too. And the oldest person that I learned a lot from was a grandfather named Chief White Bull. We used to keep him sometimes when his nephews are going away. They bring him to us. He's a real old man. He can't hear. They bring him to us, and he'd sit there and he'd tell us to all sit down in front of him, and we'll all sit. He'd tell us things, about Custer battle. He was there, he says, and he'll tell what he did and how he got deaf from a gunshot or something close to his ear, and he got deaf, couldn't hear. And then he'd say, you have to be strong in yourself. Don't ever, he says, don't ever look in people's eyes straight unless you know that if he's telling the truth, you can tell. He said, you look into the eyes of a person and you can tell if he's telling a lie or telling the truth. So, and he says, listen, never look straight up. Just listen, put your head down, listen all you can what they're telling you. And then you get what you have heard. You will learn that. Those things I learned from this old man that he was telling. And he said, never wave around when you talk. Keep your hands to yourself unless it's a direction you're going to tell, like over there or back here. And when you go, he says, when you go away, never say goodbye, but to say, I will see you again. I learned from that old man, these things, and so I tell it to my children. And to say, like Tiblo is a big brother, and Misunkala, younger brother, and Tankshi is little sister, and Tanke is big sister. Use those to each other, My mother told me that, so I never hardly call my brothers' names. In fact, I don't even hardly know their names. We all went by Indian names too, and so when I went to school, I didn't know what my real name was, just my Indian name, and pretty soon somebody gave me the name Dora, which I never did know how I ever got it, but anyway, so I taught I have 5 sons and 1 daughter, so I had them say to each other brothers and sisters. So they called their sister, and now all on the reservation everybody calls her sister. They don't hardly call her real name. Her real name is Esterline, but they call her sister all the time. And then she calls her brothers, Tiblo and Misu, and the boys call each other Chie and Misu, and that's how they. And so now they call one of my boys Misu all the time. Whoever sees him, they say Misu, which is little brother. So if you teach them that, in their family, they'll grow up knowing that relationship between. We can't hardly say like we say aunties and uncles. We say that too. Or grandpas and grandmas, ate, ina. But the respect is what they show us all the time. Never talk back to anybody, or not to even go in front of them, or bump into them, and those are the things I learned from my grandparents. My parents, father and mother. And they died long time ago. And my mother died. She knew I had 3 boys and a girl when she died. So the other 2 boys didn't know, but then they kind of picture her as me, they always say. If our grandma's alive, we picture that you look like her, they always say. Even though they didn't see her. Maybe pictures they seen, I don't know, but anyway. So the advice for young people today, I'll just say to get along with each other and have respect, and to honor the elderlies and help them along, some need help. And I'll keep on telling stories to them as I go along till I can't do it.
What did your mother do to keep the morale high in your family when there were difficult times?
I think she prays a lot. She prays a lot and talks. Maybe there's a time, I never see them, seen my father and mother get mad at each other or say things to each other. It seemed like they're always together. Long time ago, they go around together, but they tell us they're going to go after wood, and you stay and take care of your brothers, or they say you take care of this, whatever it is, drying meat or whatever is hanging, while we go over there and we'll be back. And so that's one thing we always wonder. Let's tell that to my children and their wives, my boys and their wives. I say, get along with each other, instead of getting mad at each other. It's kind of different, though. That's long time ago how they work together all the time, and sometimes they sit and talk together. And what they did is my father had a little drum that he sings too. Early in the morning we hear him singing, we get up and he said, look over there, the sun's coming up. That sun's going to watch you all throughout the day, so look over there and say thank you or guide us throughout the day or something like that in Lakota. So we used to do that too. So when I first went to the boarding school, I had the hardest time. When I got up, looked out the window and seen the sun coming up, I remembered my father and mother. And I thought, oh, they're saying words to the sun and to God, and I'm not there. And I feel sad, but then again, well, maybe if I say it too, I'll be taken care of throughout the day also. So I do.
So maybe you could share about what it was like, because church was really important to the people, and they'd spend all day on Sunday to go to church, and so maybe you could tell what it was like on Sundays in your family.
Mm-hmm. Like I say, every morning, it seemed like they never miss a day looking toward the east for the sun to come up. And if it doesn't show, they still pray and they sing songs. Some of the songs I always remember, and I was telling my grandson Steve Emery of some of the words that I knew, and so he put it into songs and he sings it, and he was really happy to know that, And now, well, when I went to the boarding school, I had the hardest time because I didn't know no English words. I didn't even know, not even yes or no, and nothing, spoon cup or nothing. I didn't know nothing at all, because we all talked Lakota and nobody. And they were hiding us way out to the country, so they won't take us, because the government was picking children up, taking them to the boarding school. So they were hiding us out, me and my brothers, so we couldn't, they didn't want us to go, so they were hiding us. But one day, a policeman came and told us, we have to go, we gotta learn. And I didn't know about day schools then. I don't know if they had them or not, but I never went to day school. But my mother got me ready to go to school. She sewed me little Indian dresses, and hair strings and headband and moccasins, leggings and everything to go away to school. And I was real happy I can get away and be with girls instead of my brothers. So I was real happy. I didn't know what it was going to be like, but I was real happy to go. And the day that we went to the agency, which is Cherry Creek, and a lot of us children got in that car and they took us. It seemed like forever getting there. And I was 10 years old then, because I can remember real well. And my older brother, I was 10 and one was 13 and one was 16. He got on his horse and took off, and they chased him. They couldn't catch him. And about a month later, said he went back to Pine Ridge on his horseback, bareback, all the way because he didn't want to go to school. So that's how things happened a long time ago. We were forced to go to school and all that. And when I got to the school, I wanted to run outside around the house to go to the bathroom someplace, but they won't let me. They were hanging out to me. I wondered what was going to happen. And instead, I told them I wanted to go to the bathroom. So they took me in a room, and they told me, try and make me sit down in a nice white bowl that had water in it. And I got scared. I never saw anything like that before. I won't sit down. I try and get away. But finally I had to go, so I did go. And then she turned on, she made me put something, and the water went like this and went down. Oh, that really scared me also. Then they took off our clothes and made us stand under the shower, and that was scary also. Because we're used to going into the, bathing in a tub of water or going to the creek in the water, the river and all that, ponds. So those things, I never went into a white man's house before, and oh, it just scared me. And all this tell that, and the people, some of them would come and hug me and poor you. But anyway, that's what happened. And they took our clothes away and made us wear some clothes. Even our shoes are big. We had to wear them. And they cut our hair this way and down this way. Took our braids away, and we never did see them afterwards. I never did see all. Sometimes all this asked for it. You'll get it back when school is out. And they took us in September, and we stayed there all the way through till June. And my parents never came to see me because it's too far from the agency to come and visit us. And we never went home on weekends or holidays or nothing. We have to just stay there till school. So the real smaller children that went, they said they forgot their Indian language. But I didn't, because, I was 10 years old. And it seemed I was bigger than all those little ones to be in the first grade. I don't think they had Head Start, primer, kindergarten then. So in the first grade, I was oldest. I was 10 years old, and the others were like 6 and 7. And I laugh when they say a word because I don't know what it means. So it was very hard for me. My interpreter said, when we went to the classroom, do what she said in Lakota. Say what she tells you to say and do what she tells you to do, But, it's different in the Lakota language how she said it. So this teacher said to me, she's saying something, so I looked at her, I didn't even answer her. She grabbed my hair and she said, yes, and she put my head down like this, and then no, and she put my head like this. And it scared me because nobody ever touched me like that or anything. So I looked at her scared, and then my interpreter said, do whatever. So I stood up and grabbed her hair and I said, yes, and I put her head down. And I was going to make her say no. By that time she slapped me and knocked me down. So I was just laying there. I laid there, and she was saying something going like this to me. So I was laying there doing that to her too, It's really awful. It was for a 10-year-old girl to go through. And my interpreters, they're telling you to stand up. So I stood up. And then sit down. And those 2 words I know real well. Stand up, sit down. I go around saying that to people. Sit down or stand up. I thought those words were I just remember those to this day. And then I'll tell my grandkids and they laugh. And I said, well, that's what happened when I went to school. But I learned after a while. I went 8 years there at the boarding school. And I was 18 years old, and I thought I was too old for that. And just then my father died, so my mother said I had to help her. So I just quit school and never did go back. So now I try to go to school. Well, I do a lot of training. I go to workshops and I do gatherings, conferences and things like that. And from there, I think I learned things to tell my grandchildren. But they went to church too after I went to school, and I went to Sunday school, and they told about Jesus Christ. And the first time I heard about Jesus Christ, the Son of God, and that He's our Savior and all that. And so I went home and I told my parents. That was later in years. I think I was about 3rd or 4th grade. I went and told my folks. I said, well, Country God has a son named Jesus. And they said, yeah. No, they said. Yeah, that's what the Ashijis are telling us there. Yes. We are the children, I said. Well, Country God, the Great Spirit, He's sacred, and we are the children. Well, we're all children of His. They didn't believe in this Jesus Christ. But I had a time trying to tell them. But then, you know, they can really sing the hymns real good that they learn at the church. The Lakota hymns, they sing them real good, and they sing about Jesus. Jesus is Jesus. But in their mind, you know, they just say God is only God. He's only sacred, only holy. But I have, so every time I go back, I don't know what to do but go their way and with their little pipes and smokes and everything else. And then I go back to the school and I go to Sunday school and do all that. So one time as I was growing up, I think I was about 16 years old, I went home and I said, look like I'm living in two worlds. I said, one Washita world and an Indian world. And he said, no, that's not right. Just put it together and you'll be okay. So I did, and you know, I'm getting along okay. But this Christianity came, you know, which made me want to think, because they said, that's Indian way. Just forget about it. We're going to live this other life, this other way, which everybody's going to be one of these days in the future. Then I studied there, go to church and taught Sunday school and Bible schools and all that. And I became a lay reader of our church. And pretty soon I was ordained to a deacon, which what I am now, a reverend of the Episcopal Church, which I enjoy doing, and using my prayer book to pray for people, or else I just go and pray at the hospitals, or whoever needs prayers, I go and do that.
That's where I met you, was at the hospital, I think, when you were praying for Martin's father.
Yeah, yes. Uh-huh.
I think I saw you before that, though, somewhere.
Yeah, I think so.
So can you tell us more about your childhood, and if your family had toys for you, and what you did as a little child to play?
Oh, yes. For toys, of course, the boys always play with some bones from the cow or from the deer, you know. They make little horses or things out of the bones they had. And of course, they made whistles. And they had stick horses and all kinds of things the boys had, slingshots and all that. And for me, my father made a wooden doll out of wood, you know, and he wired the neck and the arms together, and so my mother made clothes for it and showed me how to sew clothes. Then she made me a rag doll, which I had, and then my aunt from Rosebud came and bought me a buckskin doll, which is really something I really like. I don't hardly play with it, but let it sit up there. And of course, they made us little tents, and I play with Ellen here. We call it skatapchikala, which is rag dolls, little tiny rag dolls. We have back matches, we keep them in there, and we made little wagons.
Out of matchboxes.
Yeah. And we have a good time playing on the hillsides or wherever there's shade or any place. And a lot of other, you know, girls I played with had dolls, mostly dolls. And now if I see stuffed toys like teddy bears or cats and stuff, I always wish I had those. Long time we didn't have those, just dolls, you know, dolls out of wood or whatever. And then these teepees that they made us, or we go paint, you know. We go to the river and find different clay and stuff, and we make things with those clays. Or we play mud pies, We make mud pies or cakes or whatever. We had a lot of things to play with to keep us busy. Or we ride horseback. Her and I would ride horseback all the time. In the teenage years when I went to school and came back, I always want to play with her, and my mother would take me over there, leave me over there, because she was the only girl also in her family. So you get to ride horseback, go pick berries, or sometimes bring back the horses. They had horses and cows, and we used to chase them back. And sometimes we have water fights with our brothers, or mud fights and stuff like that. You know, we enjoy all day long. We play. But we have to do dishes too and all that. But we enjoy playing together games too, like kicking the moccasins, see who kicks the moccasins farthest. And we didn't get prizes for it. We just do it, you know, to play together. Or we go to the river and swim, see who could swim across on the other side. And we go pick plums or cherries, and then we go on the hill to dig turnips. And our mothers would show us how to peel them and slice them up or else braid them, and so we learn all that from them also. Playing and working is what we do all the time.
About the skulls that we go up to feed. Remember that?
What?
Remember there was 2 skulls up on the hill that
Oh.
we picked cherries and...
Mm-hmm. We went to a hill one time, remember, and we found some beaded things and stuff, and they told us that long time ago those, is it Utes or somebody, camped there, and when they died, they just buried them, you know, standing up. And so when all that dirt blows away, you can see the beaded stuff that they had on. They're there. So some of them people would bring it back, but they tell us to take it back because that's somebody else's, not ours, so we have to take it back. Yeah, we had games, you know, we played tag also, and we play relays, you know, with a stick to see who gets back. What other game did we play now? Relays.
We have an Indian dance too, Margaret's family and
Oh,
us.
oh yeah.
We used to give things away.
Uh-huh. We had a giveaway and all that stuff, because our parents did that. We did too. We have a parade. Trying to think of something else.
How did your parents demonstrate emotions like sadness or anger? You said they didn't express anger though.
No, you couldn't tell because things they do, they don't want us children to hear. So they make us go out of sight or go play, and then they start talking to each other. But if some relative die, they're real quiet. They said they kind of sang songs like chanting sounds, or they do a lot of singing, sad songs, you know. And if they have braids, they let it down, loose, their hair down like that. Nothing on it because they're mourning. Sometimes they cut it short. When they cut that other part of the hair, they put it in with the grave, into the grave. As part of them go with them, they say. And they do that for a few days, and then they go about, doing their work or whatever they're doing, but then they're always sewing or making something, so that a year later they have this memorial dinner or memorial doings, and that's when they give away horses or beaded things they had. Nowadays they do a lot of things, they sure give away a lot of things. And I always wonder why they do that, and I find out later, I asked my mother why they do that, and she said that kind of makes them feel good to know they can give, they're always giving. So if we give and give everything we have, we start all over again with a new heart, which, it pleases them to do that.
Do a lot of sharing.
And so what kind of things made your parents feel and express happiness?
I think that when they, like, my mother would be tanning a hide, she'd be scraping the fur off, and then soaking it, and then pulling it, and drying it, and all that. And when she's all ready to make moccasins out of it, or leggings, she has my father, cut it for her with the scissors or whatever. And then she sits to try to put the design on it, and a lot of times I see them laughing of, doing this, and I'll just look at them and think, oh, they're happy to do this, They can work together and be happy doing things together, helping each other out, which I think was something they, like helping each other, and I think they tell jokes to one another because they're laughing. But of course we don't hear it, or we don't know what it is, but they're laughing or smiling at each other. And I noticed too, they never be holding each other, hugging each other, kissing each other, but still it's a good pair that they're together, always helping, getting along with each other. And somebody asked me if they run into each other or bump each other, what do they say? Someone asked me, and I said, they say, hey. I don't know what to say. Hey. I don't know. What would they say, Alan? Excuse me, Al. Yeah, please.
Yeah, you bump into each other, or do something out of the way that shouldn't happen. We say,
Yeah.
The way they said,
Yeah, they asked me that, and I probably say, "Wanu he chamu," "Wanu he chamu."
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry, or excuse me, or whatever.
I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
And so could you tell us a little bit about Inila and quietness, and how your parents taught you that, and maybe a story about Inila?
Okay. Like at night, if we can go to bed, they said, "Ona Inila ishtima," say, just, be quiet and go to sleep. And she'll tell a story of something, and we don't even hear it because we'll be asleep right away. And or else, if we're still talking, she says that owl's gonna hoot out there, and so be quiet. I don't know why we are scared of the owl, but she ought to say that too. The owl's gonna hoot, or
They say, he hung till but not
yeah, they say that.
owl standing in the door.
Yeah.
Really
So then
quiet.
we get quiet and we go to sleep, and
And my brother was
Nila.
really scared. He come crawling between us, and Mom said, "You're a boy, you don't lay here." So he'd get off and get the foot of the bed.
Inila. They're always Inila. Ever since I can remember the Lakota boys and girls, they're quiet all the time. They don't hardly talk. If you see a grandchild now, they're different now. They can really talk up, they say things, but long time ago, we were taught not to say anything but listen. So we're always listening. I'll tell you one thing about, my father died, and then 2 years later, my mother married my uncle. His name is Edward Owl King, and he always tells us stories because he was in this wounded knee battle, whatever you call it. He told us, but I always tell my children how to behave themselves, but to listen. And he said that they were going to a prayer meeting, so they all camped. And that evening, his mother and father said to him, "You listen. You don't run around. Just sit still and listen and try and hear what they're telling you." So he said he did. And don't be crying. If you cry, the enemies are going to come, and they'll know where we're at if you're crying and making all that. So he said he kept quiet. They kept going till they got to Wounded Knee. He said at that time he was 8 years old, so he remembers clearly what was happening. So they got there, they were going to set up their tents and stuff when something happened, and the crier came around saying, do not hit your wagons. Don't put up your tents yet, and put your children out of sight. This crier came around, the Apaha, came around telling these people. So the last time he said, his mother said to him was, "Lay still in this wagon, be quiet. You can look over there, but whatever's happening, but don't." And then his father said, "If anything happens, if those guns, see all those soldiers," he said, "with big guns, with machine guns and everything. So if that smoke comes out, you run for your life. Don't ever think, don't cry for us, don't look for us, just run for your life. It's your life you're going to save." They told him so. He was kind of scared, but again, maybe something's going to happen. So he was in a wagon laying there, and all of a sudden he looked, and there's smoke in the air, and people were crying, and horses were running here, and their wagons were running, and so he jumped off the wagon. He started running somewhere, where he didn't know where, but he was running. And all of a sudden something hit him in the leg, and it hurt in here, and he fell up in the air and fell. But they told him not to cry. That's a respect. So they told him not to cry or anything, so but run for your life, they told him. So he just crawled. Even though that hurt, he said he crawled and got into a ravine and some bushes. As he got there, another little boy was crying, and he came, he said, "Don't cry out loud," he said. So those two little boys sat there till a horseback came and picked him up, and he said, this man is Blue Arm. He said he's a warrior with nothing on by one side of his arms, all blue. That's why they call him Blue Arm, I guess. He came and picked these two boys up and put them on his horse and took off. Way into some pine trees, he said, where they were hiding out. And then he says, dray wagon, what is that? He's always saying, dray wagon umpahi, he always said. So this dray wagon, whatever that is, came and picked him up and took them to Pine Ridge to a church where the nurses and doctors were there, and they knew he was shot in the lake, so he walks with a limp. They took that bullet out, and he had surgery, and then he thought about his father and mother. That was about a week later. He said, so where's my father and mother? And they were killed in that wounded knee. So he said, but good thing, he said, my other mother, his dad had 2 wives. So the other wife stayed home with the others, Jonas and Albert, all them, you know. So he said that, good thing my other mother is at home. Yeah. So that's his story. And there, I taught my children that to listen and to obey their parents and do whatever they tell you to do. See, he listened, and he said, if anything happens, just run and don't try and look for it, just run for your own life. And he did. And his parents were both killed there. Yeah.
Lots of crying that time.
Yeah.
Lots of it. Even up to 1948, there was still time for older people. There still are, some of them.
Yeah.
Older people.
So I tried to write a story for him one time, as he told me. But I never did finish.
Do you want to take a little break?
And they say that school's up there by Pine Ridge, that boarding school that was there. They're using it for some kind of building now, but this place is still there.
In Pine Ridge.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it?
That's where all
I don't know.
that
It's not on Pine Ridge. It's before Pine Ridge.
Somewhere,
Yeah.
yeah.
That father that started that, he was the one that was doing all that.
Oh yeah,
So then they got rid of him and they got a different one in there.
but they were all doing the same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was terrible.
Oh.
These two, my mother's the one that told me about that one, about the Pine Ridge School, the Catholic school. There's one in Chamberlain, there's one in North Dakota by Lincoln Camp.
Oh, we have a interliner for this. We need to put up here.
Oh.
This comes to the ground this way. The other side gets high on the other side. But then interliner, takes the smoke out. This is really nice. It's not taking here.
You got a nice place out here. Really, really nice.
Oh, you keep
Yeah, we try to.
And they won't lock up to take you.
Yeah, that's the way I told him to make it. I finally made it. Crossways. This should be. I wonder what they're doing with my rope. Should be a bigger rope. fireplace is right there. Yeah, it's just temporary. Oh, this is what they need down there. Let's take it down. You through with that? Are they through with that? Uh-huh. Okay, we gotta take it down there.
About using the stem now coming off. There's a lot of turnips running.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I thought I saw one right over there. Is that one by the door? I can't see that. You see the post.
These look like some, but they're not. These are teacher.
They have a little kind of a blue flower on them.
Oh, yeah.
And then they turn brown. The stem comes off of it.
Oh.
They start getting brown now.
I'm taking a picture of those horses out there. The horses are frisky.
It was a cool breeze. It was hot there for a while, wasn't it?
I'm watching those boys put those seeds up there. They got them all up now.
I wish I had a bigger zoom on this lens. I could really have a close-up of those horses. Yeah, it's nice he's letting us use this teepee.
You guys want any more water, any juice or anything?
Are you comfortable in here?
You still have a headache? How are you feeling?
No, my headache is gone, but I just don't feel good.
Yeah, I don't feel good either. Know how you feel? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I feel you're not really feel like you're sick or
Yeah.
nothing, but you just don't
Just
feel
don't
right.
feel good.
Station for Pierre, so he used to go once a month out there for a week, the rest of the month. But he always makes sure we had our gifts and stuff, for Christmas. And my mother, she gets her stuff for giveaways, shawls and stuff that she wants to give away. He brings it for her, and he brings in bolts of dress goods that she cuts up and makes dresses or give it to whoever needs it. And same with like the diapers and stuff like that.
For those young people,
Uh-huh.
I had to talk there and then I had to pray for them there. The air there on the crowd was just howling. Oh, gee, Dora. It's just like a chorus or something. All different voices there's all hollering at me. Oh, I didn't know what to do. Thank you. I kept saying. Pirama. I said, no up, don't be. I said, near they got quiet. So that I understand. I was coming off the stage. Some of them ran up to me to hug me and all that. They almost pulled me off the stage. I feel kind of sick like Marcella. Sometimes I get like that. I think it's my blood pressure or something. I just don't feel good, Close my eyes and see like
That's what might get too much.
It's the heat.
Yeah.
It was a heat sitting back there too.
Yeah, I
it was
think
like
so.
dead air. Was no air back there. You notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got sort of sick too. It's like give you a headache and you don't feel good, but you don't feel real sick, but you don't feel right. You take medicine for your high blood pressure?
Yeah. Right. they're giving me, I kept getting dizzy, and I kept like I was could hardly walk, and then my heart would be fast and stop and all that. So went to the hospital, and my blood pressure was really high, so I had to stay in the hospital. And they were giving me too much medicine, so they took some off. So I only take 2 now, and I feel better. All I say to the children, listen to your parents, especially your grandparents, because they know a lot. They live a long life, and they had experiences in their life. The things they say and do are important, and they're real. So listen to them. I'll say that to them. And then some of the children say, but no, gee, Dora, nobody tells us those things. I have a grandma, but she just goes to play bingo all the time. Never has time to tell us nothing. And somebody will say, oh, my dad and mom, they don't even care to talk about anything to us. And they said, Grandma, you know, they said, you just make up stories. No, I don't. They're the truth. Yeah, like that, you know. You have to listen to your elders, because they're the ones that have, when they get old, they're wise, and they have the knowledge, and they have the guidance to guide you along. And if you need help, go to them. They'll either talk to you, pray with you, and hold you. A lot of times I'm called to the jail also. I'm in jail ministry also. So I go to the jail, and if one teenager or somebody that's having problems there, I sit with them in a room, and I let them talk to me first, you know. And they talk and tell me all their troubles, why they're doing this, and why they did this, and why, and all that. It always comes up that their parents don't care for them. They don't. And as they're talking, crying, with tears in their eyes, I'll go close up to them, and I'll hold them tight, I'll kiss their cheeks, hold their hands, rub their back. And they cry all the more sometimes, and they say, my mom don't even do that. Dad never says anything. Grandma just tells me to go. You know, it's really sad to hear from teenagers like that. It's really sad. And they said, I wish you had a grandma like you, and all that, you know. I wish grandma stay with us, you know. And then I feel real good, and then I feel bad again to think, you know, that they don't get that caring they're supposed to get. That love especially. They think love is giving them this and that and all that, you know, and letting them go free. That isn't love. So I tell them. And sometimes they call me back over there to talk to them some more about. Sometimes adults, you know. Adults have their problems too. But it's kind of hard to talk to adults because they should know. But the young teenagers are one I always like to talk to them. And the only thing you're in here, I said, nobody sent you in here. No, Grandma called the cops on me. My aunt sent me in here. And my brother sent me in here. No, I said, they didn't. Sure they did. They called the cops. So I said, no. You came in on your own because you drank that alcohol. You smoked that pot. That's why you're in here. Nobody sent you. You're the one. And I have to think about it, you know. And say, oh yeah, you know. Try and do things better. Sitting here thinking about yourself. Look over your past, what you did, and feel sorry. Tell God to help you. Pray to Him. You can pray to Him. He'll help you. And things like that, you know, I tell them. one boy was trying to commit suicide, and they brought him to the jail, and when he was in there, when he came out of the pills he took, whatever, I guess he was crying, and he said, I want Aunt Dora to come and talk to me. So they called me on the telephone. What are you doing this afternoon? Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do yet. And I had things to sew, but I was laying around like I knew that I was going to have someone call me or something. You know, I get a feeling too that I have a feeling that somebody's going to call me or somebody's going to tell me to do this or that. So I was laying there on the bed, and then I got this call. So I went over there and talked to this boy, and he said, what I want to do is just end myself and be out of this world. Everybody hates me. Nobody cares for me. I can't get help from no one. Wherever I go, they look at me with hateful eyes. And nobody don't even want to give me a quarter and all that, you know. Kept saying that, so I just sitting there, and all of a sudden he said, and Dora, aren't you going to say anything to me? So I said, I'll let you talk. Get it all out of yourself, out of your system before I can tell you anything. So he went on and on and on. Oh, he talked like half an hour. And when he got through, he looked at me. And I said, let's pray about it. And he just looked at me, so, yeah, let's pray about it. Let's tell Jesus all these things. You mean after I'm telling you, you're going to turn me over to Jesus? He said, no, I'm not turning over you to him, but you have to come to him. He looks at me and he said, and Dora, you sure sound like a preacher woman. He doesn't know I'm a reverend, so he was surprised. I was reading scripture verses to him and all that, and then I prayed with him. I prayed a long time with him, and then I asked him to say the Lord's Prayer together with him. And he said, I knew that when I was a little boy, he said, but I never paid attention to it. So you better now. Let's say it. So I started saying the Lord's Prayer, and then I kind of stopped, and he went on and on. He said it all the way through. He knew it. And when we got through, I thank God for all these things. And he said, your life is too precious. Why do you want to get rid of it? You can't go on. Forget about it. It's easy to forget things. Go on. Whatever happened, whatever makes you so sad and want to die, that's nothing. You forget something, you know, and just forget it. And he thought that was, you know, something that his father and mother and grandma or grandpa will never say to him. So that's a kind of some of the children that are going to jail, they're having problems. They have something in themselves that they want to bring out to someone, but they can't because they don't listen to them. And so anytime you want to hear something or need something, prayer or something, let me know, I said. And every time I see him, he go by, he turn around and shake hands with me. Aunt Dora, thank you. I want to thank you again. And you know what? He'll say, yes, I know. Now he's getting along real good. And he seemed to,
That's what they say.
yeah.
They thank you.
Yeah.
They even give you a card. One of them is
Mm.
a card.
So that is something that we do. Or I'll be called at the hospital. I'm also a chaplain of the hospital from the YMCA. So I get called at the hospital anytime, during the night, toward morning, anytime, because my name is there. to not go and sit with somebody that's dying, and that's something their own relatives can't do. They're afraid. They're too sad, or I don't know. They can't do it. So sometimes she's with me. I go back to every time her and Flora, they all this. I asked them to go, or they'll be there, and we'll stay up all night with those whoever's sick there. So that's another thing that I do. I get sick too sometimes, but my daughter watches over me like she's my mother sometimes. Like this morning when I was coming, she looked to see how I was dressed, and she said, "Are you wearing a dress? It might be windy today. Don't wear a dress," and and wear stockings. Wear some comfortable shoes that's out in the country. Take your pow-out chair. Take your extra jacket. It might be cool, like that. And so I said, and then, "Did you take your pills this morning?" And I said, "Yes, Mommy." She laughed about it.
And so what kind of advice then do you have for their parents?
The advice I have for the parents they should pay attention to their children and hear what they're trying to tell them. Listen to them instead of just here's $1, go on or something. A lot of people do that. Oh, go ahead and go, that's all right. They should just stop at least a minute or two to look into their face and hold them or talk to them, or just give them a hug. Hold them. Sometimes my sons or grandchildren will be really drunk and they come home and start talking, and I just sit there and listen to them, and I get after them. If they can't, I'll send them to jail, and when they're out, then I start talking to them when they're sober. Because they can't hear. They're drunk. They don't hear. So that.
I used to work in the shelter home.
Mhm.
That's what I did. I don't talk to them when they bring the children in. I take them in. The parents are drunk. And when they come, you miss your baby, or you miss your boy or girl, and I said, yes. You ever think of stopping your drinking? You're driving your children away. They got no place to go, and you're the guidance of them. You have to take care of them. And one of them, he quit drinking. His wife still drinks, but he quit drinking because he said that he's a man and I'm elderly. She's thanking me for trying to help him. And she quit drinking too. Now they're kind of, even the children are all close. And I think that's all it takes. They need somebody to help them. To just talk to them.
Yeah.
So we're not educated. At least I'm not educated, but that's how I get along with people.
Me too.
Contact with them.
Yeah.
Try to get close to them as much as we can. We have at least I have a whole bunch of children of my own and grandchildren. Some of them don't mind me. I don't say nothing. But when they come to me, that's when I tell them what I think of it. And then they say, Grandma, you're the only one I got left. I don't want to lose you and stuff like that. And then they start to behave. They don't try to.
So what are the old ways of disciplining the child?
I think for me, the way they taught me was always saying, don't do that, For example, me and my brothers would climb trees and break branches and play with the leaves and everything. And then they'd get us together and they said, don't do that. Those are gods. You don't want to be breaking it. God put everything on earth to make it look nice and pretty to live on. So don't do that, you know. Then we go try and catch birds or things, and they said, don't do that. Those are sacred. You know, everything's sacred, sacred. And then pretty soon it seemed like there's nothing to play with. So one time we were just sitting there, me and my two brothers. So they said, what's wrong? Are you sick? What happened? And my older brother said, there's just nothing else to do because everything's so sacred. Thank you. What else can we do that isn't sacred? And my mother went to laugh, but she said, there's other ways, you know, you can play and do, because you're sacred yourself. You're wakanja, you're sacred. So grow up respecting these things. So then respect is what we have to have, the Lakota people. Respect one another and to animals and anything, plants, flowers. One day I was going to have a ceremony to get an Indian name. I like butterflies, so I used to chase butterflies all over. Someone should be named Pretty Butterfly. Because when I catch them, I put them inside the book or put them someplace to have, you know. And so I wanted to be named Butterfly. And my father said, he said, no, you're not going to be named Butterfly. So I wondered why. He said, you're mean. You destroy those pretty things that make the world pretty. They fly around, they're made pretty to see and to look at. And look, you're killing them and just, you know, so you can't be named Butterfly. You're cruel to them. And I felt so bad even. And then all I said, well, then I can't be. And so we watch each other, me and my brothers. Don't step on that ant, that's, or flies. And pretty soon I said, well, why did God make all these things and they bite us and they do bad things and still we can't kill them? And then, well, there's other purposes too. You could destroy them because they're bothering you, but not the pretty things. So we looked at it as not pretty when we see ants or flies or mosquitoes. But we got by okay on that as we got older. But it's always the respect that we have to have. Respect one another. I went through Indian ceremonies, like earlier I told you about eating a turtle's heart. And another was ear piercing ceremony. So it's about time you gotta have your ears pierced. So me and my brothers got the ears pierced. And that hurt it because they use a bone awl. And this old lady came and talked to us about being good and how to get along with people and helping people and sharing and all that she was telling me. And all of a sudden she was going like this to me and then she just put, and that hurt it. Then she put a sinew and then went back and forth and all that. And they put fat on it to make it, you know, some fat from cow, you know, tallow fat. And then later, about 2 days later, they put earrings on us. And I said, why do we have to do that, you know? And they said, so you could be good listener and you can hear good. You pierce your ears. And so when I see people with earrings nowadays, and I said, gee, they must be good listeners and they hear good. So I'll say to my grandchildren, if you don't listen, I'm gonna have your ears pierced. Goody, we're gonna get good earrings, they say. So that's one ceremony I went through, and the next was a naming ceremony. I have to have an Indian name to go away to school. That's the time I was going to be sent away to school. That's the time I wanted to be named Butterfly, but they didn't let me. But they're going to name me after my father's mother, who had patched teepees or made teepees for people, and so they're going to call me Oti Otawi, which means a woman with a lot of teepees, is my Indian name. So they used to just call me Otiota, in which, you know, Oti, it's supposed to be Otipi Ota, means lot of teepees. Like over here, I was sitting here remembering my name. So I put my name and I just draw little teepees. So that's my Indian name. And my father had 7 brothers, and so they all had to go by their Indian names. And his name was a story itself when you tell it. See, he's part Cheyenne, but the Cheyennes, when the Tetons over here go towards Wyoming into that country, they chase him back this way. So I guess when they were going to do that, well, my father was a little boy, and they chased his folks back this way to South Dakota. So he ran up a big cottonwood tree, and he hid up there behind in the cottonwood trees, and one of these Cheyennes saw him, and they're trying to shoot him with an arrow every time he hides behind the branches and stuff. But somehow he got shot and he fell off the cottonwood tree. But he managed, he rolled over and took off running. So that's his Indian name. Cheyennes shot him off the cottonwood treetop with an arrow and lived and ran away. It's his name. So, but then they made it short after all. It shoots off. So that's my Indian name, shoots off. And I didn't like it when I went to school. They called me Shooty as a nickname. Shooty. I used to get mad at Martin for always calling me Shooty. I went to school with him, and he's always saying Shooty. And I was going to tease him when I went to pray for him, but he was so sick, he didn't. But he knew who I was, but I thought he was going to say Shooty, and I was kind of scared. But I went to school. There was a lot of boys, you know, my age, and I remember them so well, how they used to call me that.
Would you be willing to share a few stories about Martin later?
Okay. He's always so shy. He don't hardly talk, but he used to just sit there and look at other kids as they go by. I think he's trying to, I don't know what he sees in them, but he would be doing that too. And you go and ask him something, and he'll ask you a different answer. I remember him like that. You know what? My mother's maiden name is High Bear, but she no relation to the High Bears around La Plante and Shan River, because she's from Pine Ridge. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a High Bear family from Pine Ridge too.
Yeah.
Different family, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah. I guess her name too is between the lodges. He said there's a lot of lodges, you know, they call them lodges, you know, those like little, not teepees, but I guess they hide their children in between those to hide from like going out to school or things like that. That's why they would call. What is that?
Lynn's playing with our questions.
What was it?
The wind is playing with our questions.
Oh, you asked me another question.
Oh no. The other question I could find here, if the wind wouldn't blow my thing away, was I don't know if you've already shared a little bit about this, but we asked what values should continue to be taught to the young people, and maybe you could tell a story from your own life about that. What values should continue to be taught to the young ones?
We've been talking about that thing like all along, like Owa Ushila and Nawokia and Wuksape, which is like all respect and courage and helpful and probably guidance. Yeah. Can't think of another one.
Were there any stories, old stories you were taught to how to learn those?
I think we learned those by doing it. Like you see an old lady trying to get up, you stop and go and help her get up, from her chair or on the ground. And you go give her water to drink like you're doing to us. Or just helping somebody out. And if they need anything, if you have it, give it to them. My mother never stopped talking, it seemed like. Always telling me, you have to do this, you got to do this, and go by this, and do this, all the time. So I grew up doing that, and I'm really thankful that I can hear those things she said and ask me to do it. And now I'm doing all those things. She's always saying also to see good in everybody. If I see someone, I never think bad of them. I just think, gee, that looks pretty. That looks pretty on her. She looks nice, and all that. And Amma say, hey, ashte, lila still. And then some lady came and I was talking to her, and all the time I was saying that. So finally she said, I'm sitting here waiting to see when you're going to say something bad. So I said, well, there isn't anything unless if it is really bad, then I'll say it. Right now, I don't see anything that's really bad. And Ushikala, I always say that. Ushika. I said, when I see my little grandchildren for a while, like all day long, I go home and they run to me and say, Takoja Ushakel, and I hug them. Le Ushakel head chin, or Le Ushakel lo chin, or something. And then my daughter says, don't be saying that. Don't be saying that, because you're Ushika yourself. That's why I'm saying that. Don't say that. You make everybody look so pitiful when you say that, she said. Which that isn't the way I look at it, as pitiful, but as caring. I say that, to that I care. I like to say that. And today I will share a story of how Eagle Butte got the name. I was told from my great uncle that a long time ago people traveled about team wagons and horsebacks, and they were coming up to this place which was just a town where they come to buy groceries from the country. And while they were there, or they came south of here, and they noticed something on a hill, and they looked, and there were some birds, big birds, up there. And as they watched it, they were dancing up there on that hill. And right away, these people thought that they can get some eagle feathers because those are eagles dancing. But again, they said they can't kill the eagles. It's a sacred bird for us. So that evening they dug a big hole, a pit up there on that butte, and put branches on top, and 2 men sat in it. They put a rabbit to trap the eagle. But they said eagles don't eat dead things, so they brought this live rabbit. So while the rabbit was moving around up there, which was tied down to the branch, one eagle came down to get it, but they were quick to catch the legs of that eagle, and the other man pulled 2 feathers from the wings, one on each side. The big feathers are for men and boys, and the smaller feathers under the wings and in the breast, the white, it's always white. Those called plumes, which the women and the girls use for their ceremonies. And the ceremonies in how to get the eagle feather is like through naming ceremony or Thanksgiving, or for their birthdays or anniversaries or whatever, or somebody did a good deed helping somebody out and they get a feather, or they go in a service. Now they go when somebody comes back from the service in the army or navy or whatever, they come home and they get an eagle feather. So that's how they caught eagles. They trapped them and got the eagles feathers for their ceremonies. And I just thought I'll share that today and why it is called Eagle Butte. I think I already shared some stories before, but one short story is I was given this little pipestone turtle because I was telling a story about a turtle that the shell was red and the head was red, and it swam around in the Greenwood area, which is east of Yankton, South Dakota. And my husband's a Yankton Sioux, and when we go back over there, his mother's always telling us to go to the lake. Well, not a lake, but it's a little pond along the river with a lot of willows around it. And she said, we stand there and look, and if we see that little red, there's other turtles there, but if you see that little red turtle swimming around and start to come at the bank, you pray. You pray for good health or something you want to pray about, like healing from somebody's wounded or somebody's very sick. And that turtle will listen because she's told us that that red turtle is a healing turtle. You have to pray when you see him. not very many people see him. So we were there trying to see it, and I didn't see it. But my mother-in-law saw it, and so did her son, who was my husband. They seen it, and they try to make me see it, and I don't know why I didn't see it. I often wonder if I should go back sometimes and see it. And then when I was telling that story, they told me they had some turtles, and I thought I'll buy one to remind me of that little story. This is what I have one, it's a pipestone turtle. And there are other turtle stories that are told to us. And my mother uses turtles to heal. She prays with a turtle. And people think that that's not right. But you know, Lakota people have sacred things to pray with. And it all goes up to the Creator above. No matter how they pray, with the eagle feather, or with a rock, or with some animal they love, like the turtle, or some people use the pipe. That's mostly around here, they use a sacred pipe to pray with. And so we, Lakota people, always honor our sacred things, like the four-legged creatures, and the birds that fly around. And because these were stopped a long time ago, they don't do that anymore for a while, but now it's getting to come back, and now we have all these young men doing the sun dance, and they're practicing to be medicine men. And before they get to be sun dancers, they get to be pipe carriers, which the pipe is sacred, and they have to handle it with respect and honor. But today, when I think of the turtle, I'll just draw a turtle, I'll dip my hand in water and draw a turtle wherever they hurt. And it seems like when they think of it as hurting, they say the hurting's gone, the pain's gone. So when one of my grandchildren will skin a knee or bump someplace and it's swollen, they come and say, "Draw a turtle, Grandma," you know. And I'll draw a turtle for them for healing. And they enjoy doing that. But I said, this is sacred, so you don't go around telling everybody. And it's not a game, it's a truth. You have to do this to God, not just the turtle, but it'll go through the turtle to God. Like Christians today, they use a prayer book, or they use the Bible to worship God, to pray to Him. But doing all these Indian ceremonies as growing up, my father and mother taught me a lot of things, how to do this, and you do this, and all that. And that's how I learned from my father and mother, as I didn't have no grandparents to teach me. And so I learned from my father about taking care of horses. He can rope. He showed me how to rope a colt, or a hobble, tie hobbles on a horse, or just ride around bareback, or tame a horse and all that. Or go after wood. They chop wood, and we have to put it all together, the twigs in one place for the kindling fire. And my mother would do that, and she'd have a long rope to carry it on her back to the house. When she could have, took it in a wagon, instead she liked to do that in the old time way. She'd gather all the little sticks and tie them, carry it on her back, to show that, to show us children that they did that a long time ago. which we learned pretty good. In the garden, we have a garden that we have to take care of because we need that vegetables and potatoes, corn. We take care of it so we can have those to dry for the winter use. They're always drying things. We didn't have a refrigerator, but we did have a cellar. They call it root cellar, where they keep potatoes and some of the vegetables down there where it's cool. And sometimes most of the things are dried, everything. From if they kill a deer, the skin is dried, and the meat is dried, and even bones are dried so they could make something out of the bones, such as whistles or little toys for the kids. The hoofs are always something they keep for as a they call them wind chimes or whatever. Put those hoofs together and hang it under the shade or something. When it hits together, it makes a nice sound. They use that as the wind chimes, the hoofs or the little bones, They did that, and my mother. Today, if I see that, they don't believe it that, but growing up, I seen all these. And when I seen these dream catchers that they're so popular nowadays, I go back to think they come from other tribes, I think, but what my mother did, she used to pick a tumbleweed and she'll hang it up under the shade. Shade, what I mean is the arbor where they sit under. She'll hang it, and we always wonder what it is. We try and knock it down. She said, no, leave it there. That's to take away the bad dreams you have. And it seems like when she talks about a dream she had which is no good, she looks at it and hits, and then some of the leaves will fall off. And she said, there goes that bad dream. It's blown away, so we don't have to think about that dream coming true. It's gone away. So that's what I learned from that tumbleweed that used to hang there. It hangs there till it's all ripe, and then nothing, and it falls off. But the next spring she'll do that again. So that's what I learned from dream catchers. When I seen this other one from some other tribes, I think they use that, probably Southwest or somewhere, but it's pretty. Now everybody's making them and using them. And also, they had everything they have, like dried choke cherries, they pounded up and made patties and dry it. And the corn, they cook it and then cut off the kernels, and they dry that to make sweet corn. And turnips, they also slice it up or just braid it and dry it. And they use all those for winter use. In the winter, they make soup. But before they're gonna have soup, they take a little of each and throw it out to the spirits. They say the spirits are hungry. And I used to think, if they're spirits, if they're spirits such as like angels, they don't need that, I tell my folks, and they said, no, that's our way of doing it. That's our way. So then I go along with that. So nowadays they do that. If they have a memorial dinner or feast or something, they take some of the food and have a medicine man pray over it and feed the spirits. Put it outside or up on a tree or somewhere. I worked really hard as growing up because my mother taught me to work all the time, washing dishes or sewing, beading, and all that. She taught me all those. I went to school, and there we learned a lot also. at the boarding school, we just go to school in the morning, and afternoon we go to the laundry to help with the laundry, or we go to the kitchen and help peel potatoes or help cook there. And in the dining room we set tables, and in the dishwasher we have to dry dishes. Nowadays I notice they don't do that, they just put it on racks to dry. Long time ago we had dish towel to wipe dishes. But now everything's so different. To me, it seems like everything's going real fast. Things go really fast. There's nothing, it seems like you didn't have to really work hard because everything's fast nowadays. Sure changed a lot. I was married, and I was married for 40 years, and my husband and I just stayed together. We get into it every now and then, but we think of our marriage vows and we get back together. And then I had 4 boys and a daughter, 2 boys and a daughter in the middle, and then 2 more boys. And so we want to raise them up right, as my mother always say. In the future, they're going to be men and women, and so you better start from the beginning to show them what life is, how to get along with people, how to help out, and to have respect, especially to the elders that will be talking to them. And so I brought them up, training them to say sister to their sister, only sister they have, and brother, and big brother, and little brother. So they all say that to each other. Misun or Chie. Chie is a big brother. Misun is a younger brother. And Misunkala is a little brother. And so they grew up saying that to each other. And to this day, my daughter is called sister. Everybody knows her as sister wherever she goes. But she wanted to change it because people say that she was a nun or, Catholic sister. And she said, I want my name. So then her name is Esther, though. Almost sounds like sister. So now she's married and has her own children now. But they all behave themselves, and when their father made sure they go to school every day, and so they all graduated to 12th grade, and they went on in the service. The oldest one went in the Navy, and the next one went in the Army, and my daughter went in the WAC, which is a Women's Armed Forces. And then the next one went in the Army, and the youngest went in the Navy. So I have 5 that are all in the service people. So I'm always honored at gatherings that people say she's a mother of all her children being in the service. And I'm really proud to know that I can be honored that way. But when they all grew up and went away, it seemed like there's nothing else to do. So I asked my husband if I can work, and she said, what can you do? Your work is at home. But I wanted to work so bad, we moved up here in Eagle Butte because he's a policeman here. And so I went to work at a cafe washing dishes. And then I waited table, which I didn't care too much about. So then I told the manager that I can cook. I said, I cook for my children, my mother. I can cook. And he said, maybe you have to have training to do this. And he says, no, I can do it. So I tried, and he said I did real good. So I cooked there for breakfast, and then the lunch, and then afternoon the snacks, and then evening. And he said I did so well that he made me assistant manager of his cafe, which was the truck stop cafe along the road over here, used to be. Now it's Diamond A. So I grew up cooking most of my life. It seemed like I liked to cook, so I did all that. And then one day I was offered a job at a Head Start school for a cook. So I went there and signed up, and I got the job. So I was a cook there for 5 years. I was a Head Start cook. And I did a little teacher's aid, but I think I'd rather cook, I said. So I just stayed with that cooking. Went for training and all that in the summer times to be cooks. And then when I wanted to change for a while to do something else, and then the sewing center started. So I went there and got a job as a sewing, and I did a lot of sewing. We made all kinds of things there. At first we made nightgowns, and then we made t-shirts with little things on here, and then we made jackets, and it was going real good, and then somehow it stopped, so there I was without a job. Then I looked for a job, and then I found one which might be hard for me because I didn't have too much training, but it was a nutrition assistant, something to do with the commodity foods. But I think I use all my commodities cooking different ways all the time. So I just thought I can try for that. And I applied for it, and I passed and got it. And I worked there 11 years as a nutrition aide, going all over the reservation, showing them how to cook with commodity foods, how to bake bread, how to make cakes and rolls and everything, and casseroles and soups and everything you can think of with the commodity foods. And I enjoyed that very much, but I thought I was getting old and my grandkids were growing up, and I love them more than to stay home and take care of them. So I retired from that work, and then I started taking care of my grandchildren. They stay with me, but still I get calls from recipes, from the commodity food, or helping with menus at places. So I still do that and help them out. Then I thought that I didn't hardly go to church